Hey everyone, I finished watching the next Ninja Storm episode, General Deception Part 2. Uh, I'll just get right into the summary. It picks up right off where the last episode left off. The Rangers defeat Zurgane's Megazord, but Cam happens to see Zurgane running away with something. He thinks something more might be coming. Turns out what Zurgane has is a disc with a clone program. All the while he was fighting the Megazord, he was actually recording all of its moves and feeding data into a disc that he can give to yet another Megazord that he has for some reason. And that Megazord will now know all the Rangers' Megazord attacks. And the Rangers won't be able to defend themselves because he'll know every move that they make. It's kind of a clever idea. So anyway, it is kind of weird Zurgane has so many Megazords. It kind of makes me wonder, why doesn't he just give each of Lothor's minions a Megazord and then they can all attack at once? I mean, obviously it wouldn't work because, I mean, we know that, but, like, in universe, what exactly is the reason why he doesn't just do that? Uh. So anyway, the Rangers go back to camping, and they find their campsite completely trashed. Like, stuff is thrown all over, the food's gone, and so they're like, well, let's make the best of it. Let's go look for food somewhere else. And that story goes nowhere because Cam immediately calls them back to action because, yeah, Zurgane's shown up with his new Megazord with his clone program. Uh, so then the Rangers all go fight Zurgane with their Megazord. It doesn't work because Zurgane knows everything they're going to do. So then, let's see, Sensei Watanabe calls Rangers back to Ninja Ops, and there they come up with a new plan. This time they'll use their ninja gliders, because that'll work against a Megazord. So anyway, it goes exactly as you would think. Zurgane shoots them down, and then for some reason goes down on the ground to fight the Rangers. Okay, even Lothor doesn't like that idea. Alright, sure, whatever. So then anyway, they fight for a while. Then, da 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 da. Okay, yeah, then Cam shows up with the Zords. He's made some kind of improvement to the Zords. And then Zurgane goes back to his own Megazord. They get into a fight. Vexcus and Shimatsu show up to watch the fight for some reason. I guess they had to introduce them some way because they do have an important role later. Or, well, Vexcus has a role later in the episode. I don't know what Shimatsu's doing there. He just hangs around Vexicus because, I don't know. They're buddies now, I guess. So, let's see. Da, 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 da. Battle drags on forever for a million years. I freaking hate it. It goes on way too long. But then the Rangers combine their Megazord with the Mammoth Zord, and that's a combination Zurgane hasn't seen, so he has no data on it. They're able to use, like, all their little Powerball things, shoot them all at him at once. His Megazord is destroyed. They go back to camping, and then Vexicus goes and kills Zurgane. I kind of remembered seeing this episode when I was younger, and I remember when I was rewatching it when I got like DVDs of it and tapes of it, and I got to this episode, but I remembered something crazy happens at the end of the episode, but I couldn't remember what when I was rewatching it this time. This time on my rewatch, I got to this episode and I was like, "Oh, the Rangers camping. I remember that." And I remember there was something weird about the ending to these episodes where the Rangers are camping, and I couldn't remember quite what it was. This was it. This bizarre out of nowhere Vexicus kills Zurgane. Why? I don't know. They don't really explain it in this episode. Now, I do have like some thoughts about like why it happens, but they don't make it clear in the episode, and I can't imagine any kid watching it back when it was originally airing or even watching it on the DVD would pick up on it. Like even people binge watching it, I think would completely miss like the reasoning why Vexicus kills Zurgane if that even was the writer's intention, because I'm honestly not sure, because it's so bizarre and weird out of nowhere. And it's also strange because it's the cap to this very standard repetitive episode that's all just Megazord fights. I'm not a fan of these type of episodes where the whole episode is just they're in a Megazord, because that's the whole thing, is just they're in the Megazord fighting the same like or well, actually at the beginning it is a slightly different Megazord. Zurgane has multiple Megazords. Actually, now that Zergain is dead, is Lothor gonna go looking for the stockpile of Zords that Zergain apparently had? And if they do actually acknowledge that, I'm going to wonder, so why didn't Lothor ever listen to Zergain? If Zergain had all this stuff that Lothor could have used, why didn't he ever ask him about it earlier or whatever? Moving on to the rest of this thing. Oh yeah, the goofy little B plot with the Rangers camping, that was kind of a neat thing in the first episode. It doesn't really go anywhere. Like, I thought that there was gonna be something about, like, the Rangers learn how to, like, embrace Tori's idea of what camping should be. But no, at the end of this episode, they're all just asleep, and that's the end of that. And also, there's a weird thing. They shy away so much from the camping thing. It makes me wonder, they must have done more with it initially, at least like at the script level. Because otherwise, it doesn't. It's one of the weird things I've noticed in Ninja Storm on this rewatch is how often there seems to be something that's set up as important, something that should be getting more focus, but it just doesn't because I don't know. It feels like there were mandates in place that said all the Rangers have to be in every episode, there has to be a fight with a monster, there has to be something with the Megazords, or something like that. Or there has to be a scene where they morph, or they fight. Actually, this time they didn't fight Kelzax, so that's something. But yeah, it really feels like there was something going on behind the scenes that, like, maybe originally there were times when there was something that was going to have more focus, but then it was completely rewritten, and then they just shot it and didn't bother to, whatever. Moving on to some other thing to talk about. Uh, Most of my notes here are, like, just about Vexkis and Zergain and how weird that ending is. Yeah. The episode didn't have that many notes. Like, for the summary, it's pretty brief because the episode is really repetitive. They fight the Megazord, they beat it, Zergain comes back with a new Megazord, they fight it again, they don't defeat it, then they come back again with the Megazord, and this time they do pretty much the exact same fight again before Cam brings out the Mammoth Zord, and he's like, okay, let's try this now. And then they're able to defeat it after they do all the Megazord fight again. I wouldn't be surprised if they, like, were reusing scenes from the previous Megazord fight for this one, because so much of it just is exactly the same thing. So, yeah. Very tedious, repetitive. I didn't care for it. I think this may be the worst episode of Ninja Storm of all the episodes. Like, so far, there hasn't really been a really bad episode. There's been dumb episodes, sure, but they're still entertaining in their own way. And there's episodes where, like, there's multi-part episodes where there's an episode that doesn't really contribute anything, but there's still some benefit there. There's some good stuff in there. With this episode, like, there's really nothing. And what makes it kind of the worst is the fact that they have a plot relevant thing at the end with Vexkis killing Zergain. And even that comes off as bad because there's no setup for it. There's no development of it. Zergain and Vexkis barely have any, like, dialogue interaction between each other in these two episodes. In the last episode, there's a kinda sorta rivalry built up between them at the very beginning, but then the rest of it doesn't really come back. Vexkis will sit around and watch Zergain, and yeah, he says that he doesn't care if Zergain gets killed or not, but it doesn't look like he's going to be the one who goes and kills him. So that's really odd. It's weird because I don't really see what anybody gains from Zergain being murdered like this. And I mean, there is a thing I thought about later, but that's not really present in the episode. It kind of just looks like Vexkis just randomly kills Zergain, and it feels like the way it's shot that there was a setup. I don't know, maybe there were scenes of Vexkis and Zergain arguing or something, or there was more than just a rivalry between them. I don't know, or maybe Zergain, like, knew about something Vexkis was planning to do. Like, maybe Vexkis was planning on overthrowing Lothor, Zergain found out about it, and Vexkis didn't have the chance to do anything about it until this point. Or, like, here's something that I think would have been a way cooler episode than just Megazord fight, Megazord fight, Megazord fight, Megazord fight. What if Zergain did overhear like Vexcus and Shimatsu plotting against Lothor, and then he confronts them about it. They attack him, and he easily like knocks them back. And they're like, "Oh well, crap! He knows what we're planning." And then like the Rangers do something. Zergain's like, "I gotta go fight the Rangers. We'll talk about this later." And then he gets in the Megazord. The Rangers destroy the Megazord. He's wounded, and Vexcus is like, "Okay, cool. Now's my chance to go kill Zergain." And that way he won't be able to tell Lothor that I'm plotting against him. And like Lothor is ticked at Zergain anyway. He doesn't really give a crap about Zergain. That's the other weird thing in Ninja Storm that Lothor really doesn't care. He doesn't give a crap about Zergain. He doesn't give him any respect. Zergain has nothing but loyalty for Lothor, but Lothor does not return it at all. So, yeah, I think the way I was talking about would have been a way stronger story, and I'm guessing it was probably more similar to what I was saying in Hurricaneger. I did watch Hurricaneger a little bit, but I don't remember anything about this late in the show. I watched the beginning of it, and I know I watched like some like videos about like plot points later on, but I don't remember any of it. But I do know that Vexcus and Shimatsu had a bigger role in Hurricaneger than they did in Ninja Storm. So anyway, yeah, Vexcus kills Zergain, and there's not really any setup for it. It just comes right out of nowhere. And the only thing I can think of for how it makes any sense is that back when Vexcus was introduced, he was introduced not as an ally for Lothor, but he's outright an enemy of Lothor, a sworn enemy of Lothor. And the only reason that he allies himself with Lothor is because Lothor happens to be fighting the Rangers. And Vexcus is like, oh, well, if I hang around, maybe I can get some Power Ranger powers or something if we defeat them. And Zergain being so loyal to Lothor, like to a fault, that's an obstacle between him and Lothor. Like, if Lothor did defeat the Rangers and take the power, he's not going to share it. He's going to keep it for himself. So Vexcus would then try to attack Lothor, kill Lothor, take the power for himself, but Zergain would be an obstacle in front of that because, like, no matter what Lothor does to Zergain, Zergain's still going to be loyal to him. So he takes his chance to kill Zergain here so that he has more of a chance to get the power from Lothor because Lothor is pretty short-sighted in this. Like, surely Lothor knows how loyal Zergain is. He should really be treating him better. Because, like, he's the only monster in his army that, could work as a bodyguard. Nobody else really does. Like, even Motodrone. Motodrone is more, I think, loyal to Zergain than he is to Lothor, and actually more to himself than Lothor. Chubo has actively gone against him before. Shimatsu is like a wild card. He just met him. He doesn't know anything about him. He's like some ancient warlord. What's to stop him from wanting to take over himself? And then Vexicus is just outright an enemy. Mar and Capri are dumb. Like, they'd probably just, I don't know, leave if things got bad. Uh, So all I can guess is the reason why Vexicus kills Zergain is because it's one less obstacle between him and Lothor if Lothor gets the Power Ranger powers, but you'd think he'd want to wait until later. Which is why I think there should have been, like, a motivation that drives him in this episode, like something that happens right away. Um, Something this episode made me think about a lot was how in Power Rangers, at this point in the series, it's not really rare to see backstabbing, despicable villains who turn on each other. Nearly every season has something where the bad guys turn on each other. Zed, the first, like, new villain to be introduced, immediately, like, sends Rita away. He locks her back up in the dumpster, shoots her back into space, and he has no intention of ever letting her out. If Zed had his way, she'd just be floating out in space. She'd still be out there. Or actually, the first new villain was Scorpina. She never turns on Rita. Moving on. Let's see. Then, see, the Machine Empire, they don't have, like, an allyship with Zed or Rita. They just want Earth for themselves. Zed and Rita leave. And when they do, like, confront each other, the first thing they do is fight. Oh, and then there's also Louis Kaboom and Prince Gasket. Prince Gasket kills, or well, Archerina kills Louis Kaboom. So, and then in Turbo, Let's see, I'm trying to think. Do any of the villains turn on each other in Turbo? I think the Turbo villains actually got along pretty well, probably due to most of them being family members. Divatox, Elgar's her nephew, Rygog and Porto are friends of her, I guess. Then General Havoc is her brother. Yeah, her brother. And then, let's see, even Mama Divatox is, like, pretty nice too, Divatox. I mean, she's mean, but I mean, she's also like she obviously cares about her. She's not gonna backstab her own daughter. She's not like Queen Banshira, who uh, Olympius dies and she just laughs and is like, "Haha, what a freaking loser! I hate him anyway. Who cares?" Like, oh, anyway, the thing that I was thinking about the most was Deviat and Villamax, and like Deviat, or actually, yeah, Deviat and Scorpius too. Deviat orchestrates the killing of Scorpius, and it makes sense. It's all set up. Deviat has clear motivations, and the same with like the other characters in the Saban era seasons. They usually had clear motivations that were set up and they were understandable. They made sense. The only time where a villain like kills someone and it's kind of weird and doesn't make sense is Rancic killing Dr. Ferrix. But then like you could still say that well, Rancic is like incredibly prejudiced to anyone who's not a mutant. Also, he's kind of nuts at that point, so it's not too far out of the realm of possibility that, yeah, he'll just randomly murder this guy who just saved his life because, well, you're not a mutant, and also I'm just kind of feeling psychotic, so, say goodbye. So there's Rancic. Anyway, back to, let's see, looking at my notes here. Yeah, I've said pretty much all I want to say about Vexkiss and Zurgane and their weirdness. So I'll talk about Zurgane, because I'm probably not going to get to talk about him anymore this season. It's a shame that he got taken out for good here, because he had potential to be a really cool character, but for whatever reason, he never really got all that much development. Most of, like, what I know about him is just he's loyal to a fault to Lothor, he's some kind of robot or cyborg, and for some reason, Lothor doesn't give him a lot of respect. Vexicus, he's cool, but he has less going on than Zurgane does. All we know about him is he's a former enemy of Lothor. He wants power. That's about it. Also, he may or may not be friends with Shimatsu for some reason. Oh. Why is Shimatsu here? Is he just hanging around because Lothor sent him down with Vexicus, and so then he was like, oh, well, I better hang around Vexicus. It's kind of like I do temp work, and so when I start a new job, they'll usually, if it's a new job that I don't have any experience in, they'll put me with somebody, and I just kind of stick with that person, like, throughout the first couple of days. Like, whatever they do, like, even if it's not work related, I'll just kind of stick around with that person because they're familiar and that's who I was told to, like, to shadow that day or something. And is it something like that? Like, Shimatsu just doesn't have a whole lot of experience, even though he's supposed to have been a warlord, and so he just sticks around Vexkiss because that's the first person Lothor told him to stick around? Hmm. Anyway, that's it for this one. This went on kind of longer than I was wanting it to, but um, the yeah, worst episode of Ninja Storm, at least so far. There's only 8 or so episodes left, I think. So, or actually, no, I think it's less than 8 episodes. Which episode is this? Let's see, General Deception Part 2. Holy crap! Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes left, and 2 of them are a two-parter. So we got 2 standard episodes left, and then the finale two-parter. So that'll be interesting to see. Almost done with Ninja Storm, almost up to Dino Thunder. I'm excited for Dino Thunder. It's not my favorite season, though. Or actually, I don't know. Maybe this time I'll see what everybody sees in it. In the past, I've never really liked Dino Thunder that much. When I was initially watching it, back when it first came out as a kid, I'll talk about that when I get to it, because this is going on for a long time, so hope you enjoyed this. See ya.